To a special meeting of the Council of the City of Long Beach held Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023 at 7 p.m. We'll have a roll call. Councilmember Posterly.
Here.
Councilmember Lester. Here. Councilmember McGinnis.
Present.
Vice President Treston.
Here.
President Bendo.
Present.
Let the record indicate the presence of Acting City Manager Ron Walsh and Corporation Counsel Dennis Cohen. We'll have a salute to the flag.
I'm going to ask our city clerk to lead us.
Hand over heart.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to a special city council meeting. Just in case you don't know what special city council meetings are a little different. There is no good and welfare. We just do the items on the agenda, and that is it. Just a reminder to everyone that since this is Memorial Day weekend coming up, park your car on Friday and don't move it until Labor Day. So with that, let's get going.
Our first item this evening is a resolution authorizing the adoption of the budget for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024, appropriating sums set forth therein and determining and fixing the real estate tax levy. I believe we have a motion on this item.
Yes. I would like to make a motion to adopt the errata sheet into the proposed budget and to change the following figures in the resolution. The total expenditure is changed to $102,103,751. The tax levy is $58,574,064. The tax rate for homestead properties decreases to 24.2821 per $100, and the tax rate for non-homestead properties decreases to 42.8292 per $100.
Could you read that tax levy number again? You left off a digit.
Did I leave off some zeros?
You left off a digit on there.
The tax levy?
Tax levy.
I said 58 million, right?
58 million.
Million $574,064 and $654.
There you go.
Thank you.
Who will second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Posterly.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester. Yes. Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Okay, since the errata sheet has been adopted, we will put out copies for the public. There'll be copies of the errata sheet will be on the table on the side. Okay.
What do we set up for that? I guess I should do it from down there.
Yes.
All right, we're going to do something a little different tonight. We're going to be talking about the errata sheet, and since the errata sheet is something that's done by the city council, instead of having the staff talk about it, you get me tonight, which is a little different than normal. All right, sorry about the sun, might make it a little hard to see. Okay, so before we even start talking about the errata sheet, we got to kind of talk about the financial elephant that's in the room that really had the major impact on the budget this year, and that was the Haberman settlement. So some years back, there was a judgment against the city. This is a case that goes back to the 80s, the 1980s. Been in litigation for a long time. There was a judgment that came down, and ultimately a judge ruled that with interest we owed this developer $150 million, which is more than the annual budget of the city. So had we had to pay that this year, starting in the next budget, that would have resulted in well over a 20% tax increase just to pay this judgment. So, next slide, please. Okay, so what we did is, to tackle this, we basically went into some aggressive negotiations with the developers' attorneys, basically pleading with them to not bankrupt the city. And, you know, after quite a while of negotiating with them, we were able to get them to come down from 150 million to 75 million. So we got it down by half. Now, once we finalized that negotiation, we had to pay the developer what we owed him. So to do that, we had to borrow that money. Normally, when the city would borrow money for something like that, it's paid back over 15 years. Had we paid that back over 15 years, that would have, again, been a huge financial burden on the taxpayers. So we got our legislators up in Albany to pass legislation to allow us to go out to a 30-year bond on this rather than 15 to try to ease the pain. While it's not great that we're paying it off over a longer period of time, the annual payments came down quite a bit because of that. But we will owe the first payment in this new budget that we're discussing tonight. And that payment is $5.5 million. That's a lot of money when our tax revenue is about 59, almost $60 million. So that's a pretty hefty percentage. So just the payment that we have to make to pay off this settlement equated to just over a 10% tax increase. Just for that payment. That doesn't include anything related to the normal expense increases the city has, our contractual raises, the fact that we have to buy things and inflation, you know, was again at 6% this year. So just that was 10%. Okay, next please, Dave. So we knew this was coming. So when the budget process started, the council gave the staff some pretty clear directive. Taking Haberman, that settlement, that 10% out of the equation, you are not to exceed the tax cap. That's easier said than done, considering, like I said, we have contractual raises, inflation was 6% plus this year, and we were telling them they had to stay under, the tax cap this year was about 2.4%. So telling them they had to stay under that was not an easy task to do, but that is the charge we gave them. Next, please, Dave. Okay, so this is the proposed budget. So the way this works is, in April, the staff completes the budget, and the staff gives it to the council about a week before the public gets it. Council goes through it. We start bombarding the staff with our questions. And what about this? Can you tweak this? Where'd you come up with that number? And we started planning budget meetings. We had a number of work sessions on the budget. So that starts, and then about a week later, the public gets the budget, and you get to start going through it too and developing your questions. So this was the budget that the staff gave to us. So total revenues, just under 103 million. It was a balanced budget this year, so the revenues and expenditures equal each other. The revenue from taxes was just under $60 million. So about 58% of the city's revenue comes from taxes. We get other sources of revenue, beach passes and other things, permits and fees that the city gets, some aid from the state that makes up the difference. So the proposed tax increase that was in the budget, which was Haberman, plus we told the staff, you have to stay under the tax cap, and they did it, was 12.39% was going to be the tax increase that's in the budget. Next, please, Dave. Once we get the budget, this council, we can do what's called an errata. So what's an errata? An errata basically is a tool that the council can use to change the budget. If there's something in there we don't agree with, something we want changed, the errata is the tool we use to do it. If we put it in an errata sheet and then we vote to approve that errata sheet, it becomes part of the budget, and it has to be adhered to. So, all right, next please, Dave. So, what did we do? What did we do in this errata sheet after the council went through it and having some discussions with the staff? What we basically did is we said, okay, we got to try to get that 12.39 number down. It's just, it's too much. We got to get it down. So what did we do? Well, there was some new hiring, new positions in the budget for next year. We took them out. We kind of imposed some cuts on some of the departments. We tried to be very reasonable, mostly departments with large multi-million-dollar budgets, and we took some very small cuts out of them, but when you take a number of small cuts, it starts to add up. And then, in an unusual good move, we actually got some new information from the state that some of the costs of some of our fringe benefits will go down a little bit next year, which is a little unusual to get that kind of news from the state. So next, please, Dave. Okay, so what are we doing with the errata sheet? Basically, when all is said and done, we're reducing the tax levy by almost $1.3 million. That's what we basically have cut out of the budget. It took a lot of work, took a lot of back and forth, a lot of belt tightening, but this is what we needed to do because of Haberman. It was going to be painful, so we needed to try to cut down on that pain. Next, please, Dave. Okay, so in the original budget, before the errata, as I said earlier, the tax increase was going to be 12.39%. We've been able to reduce that by 2.42% through the cuts that we have made. So the new tax increase is now 9.97% if the errata is passed. So what's important to know, what we have effectively done is we zeroed out any tax increase except for that by Haberman, which that we can't do anything about. In fact, we even cut a little deeper, not much, but a little bit deeper than what we needed to get to zero. So we actually are slightly negative. So if you took Haberman out of the equation, there would be no tax increase at all this year. In fact, the taxes would technically go down a very tiny amount. So, good news, that's on top of some of the bad news related to Haberman. All right, next please, Dave. So, how does this impact the people in the room here who pay taxes? So, before the errata, the average household tax increase was going to be about $574. If the errata passes, it will be $462. So essentially, what we managed to do is take about $112 out of the average taxpayer's bill for the year with the cuts we've made. Okay, so just wrapping up. Look, hearing your taxes are still going up $472 is not great news, but again, it's really something that was out of our control. So what we had to do is, we had to think through the budget. We had to make a responsible budget. And I'll probably address this now because Mr. Happy Paganini's in the back, and I know he's thinking this. Why didn't you cut more? The truth be told is we have to do a responsible budget. We can't just make random cuts and hope they're adhered to or come up with imaginary revenue streams that we hope show up. That's irresponsible, and quite frankly, that's how the city got in trouble in the past with some fictitious budgets. And quite frankly, an interesting example, if you saw Newsday today, Greenport out in Suffolk County just voted to raise their taxes 17%. The reason they had to do that is because the last few years they've been artificially keeping their tax increases down by making fictitious cuts, dipping into reserve funds, things like that, and they're at the point now where they're effectively broke and don't have money to do anything. So they had to raise taxes 17% this year to catch up. We don't want to do that. We need to make responsible budgets so we're not clobbering people with big tax increases every few years. This is kind of a slow and steady is the way to go kind of thing. So, kind of summarizing, like I said, if you take Haberman out of the equation, there actually would be no tax increase this year. None. But, like I said, that's just something we have to deal with. So I just want to give some credit where credit is due. Like I said, you know, just telling the staff, don't exceed the tax cap, those are easy words to say. Accomplishing it is an entirely different thing. The staff all around, particularly our acting city manager Ron and our comptroller Ina, worked their tails off to make this happen. And they put in a lot of hours, a lot of late nights, doing all these little tweaks, looking for change in the couch cushions. You know, can we get Councilwoman Posterly to bake banana bread so we could do bake sales? You know, whatever we got to do to try to make this work. So it wasn't easy, but the staff stepped up to the challenge and got it done, and I really think they deserve credit for all the hard work that they did. So with that, I'm going to go sit down, and we'll probably take questions if anyone has them. Okay. Sure. Go ahead.
So thank you, President Bendo, for the compliments. I just wanted to make a couple of quick statements for the record and those in the audience. The original budget, you know, and the guidance that we had from the council, you know, I felt was responsible to exactly what the council wanted. I think it was important for the council to hear the cries and the concerns of the citizens who come to the council meetings, who send us emails, and who express their need to try and hold the line on city taxes. The budget that is before you, it was extremely difficult. It's a very tight budget. It is balanced. It is aggressive, and part of the goal of the administration now is to focus on those areas where we can be more efficient, more productive, and also try and see what we can do about finding other revenue sources to support this city long term, outside of simply finding ways or raising your tax levy and doing that. So a lot of backroom discussion, a lot of guidance, a lot of working. And I feel confident that this budget meets the needs of the city. I feel confident that we're going to be able to come out of this in a good way. And I also think it is a furtherance of the city's financial recovery. One of the things that we did not do is put ourselves on a path of deficit funding out of a fund balance that once you start to hit is very, very difficult to bring us back out of. We have Moody's coming in just a couple of weeks. They've just made an appointment with us this week. We have the State Comptroller's Office that looks at our budgets and really takes a very speculative eye on what we do to ensure that we don't return ourselves to the spending trends of the past. And my hats are off to the council for really towing the line and making sure that we held to everything that was your expectation in representing the city and its needs. So, thank you.
Okay. So, any final questions or comments from the council members?
I mean, I just have a comment, and, it's been said by you, by Ron, but I just really want to reiterate that this council worked together with the administration and departments to really come to a place and work together so that we had this separate from the Haberman settlement, that it is a 0%, and it's a very big feat, and we're also grateful to the residents who've come and given so much of their time and their feedback too. That was very important for us, and we're still in a fiscally sound position and easing the burden on the taxpayers as well. So we have worked together very hard on this, and I just really wanted to acknowledge everybody who has done that.
Okay.
I'd also just like to acknowledge, can you hear me? I just want to acknowledge all of the staff that came to our working meetings and were, again, very patient, Mr. Canner, with with all of our questions about the budget. I know sometimes we can be difficult, but at the end, we all came together and made something happen that hasn't happened in the city in a very long time.
All right, anyone else? All right, I guess even though the public hearings are closed, since it isn't a resolution item, we'll open it to any last-second questions or comments from the public. Mr. Paganini.
Evening, everybody. Ron Paganini, 62 Harmon Street. Listen, you did a great job by knocking it down. I mean, it's 10 times better than it was. But, I mean, listen, we got 30 years of this stuff. That's what I'm afraid of, you know? And I think, and I'm sure you're going to start working on this overtime, this big balloon of $5 million. I'm not going to have any union put a gun to my head or the people behind me. We can't have that. You know, it doesn't work. We want to pay people for what they do. If you're only fighting 5 or 6 fires a year, they got to come around and say, hey, you know what? We're going to work with you guys. It's a lot of money. They make good salaries. They make great salaries. I mean, it's just a matter of cutting it back. I don't know how you can, listen, there are ways to do it. And what I'm afraid of is the next 29 years. You did a great job, and I have to give you credit for what you did. But that's the elephant. Haberman is one elephant. This is a baby elephant. You can't, right or wrong, $5 million spent last year is a lot of money in overtime. That's not guaranteed salaries, you know what I'm saying? So I just hope in the coming months that we hear good news, that, you know, these people all throughout the city have to start giving back a little more. You know, is 9, you know what, maybe next year it could be 7. 7%. That's what I'm hoping for the future. And, you know, it's very scary that, again, yeah, if it's a 1-year thing, who would care?
I'm holding you to the 7.
You gonna hold me to 7?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can do 7.
When you come up next year, you better say 7.
7? No, I got him now. I got him. I'm going to text you on that, too. I'm going to have a document on that. All right, thank you.
All right, thanks,
So,
Ron.
I just want to, as you walk back to your seat, Ron, please keep walking back to your seat, Ron. I just want to say, you know, I don't want to couch the entire workforce under the troubles that we're having with one contract. I want to very clearly say that every time I've gone to the CSEA, they've worked very, very diligently with the city to try and figure out ways to actually help this city be financially sound, because they care. I want to say that I work with the COA to come up with a sound, structurally sound contract to help this city be on a structural path of reduced costs. I also am very hopeful that the conclusion of our PBA negotiations have the same result. I can very clearly tell you that there have been a lot of negotiation and a lot of discussion and a lot of conversation with the fire department union now, and this administration stands firm in finding ways to reduce the expenses of the overtime and the structural problems in that contract. It doesn't mean that it's going to be easy, and it doesn't mean that it's going to be quick. So that's the commitment you have from this administration, and as the city manager for the last several months, since January, the cooperation I've gotten from almost every union and almost every employee has been terrific, and they are showing that they care every day. So I wanted to say that. Thank you, Ron.
Okay, any more questions from the public? Okay.
Hello, everyone. My name's Carmine Convertino. I was just wondering if you might know the figure for the original settlement when the Habermans won their case, what that might have been, if you could tell me that.
It was 120.
It was almost every bit of $130 million, and as by the time we had come up with the settlement portion of it, it was over $150 million.
So back in the 80s, it was...
No, in the 80s was the fight, and then there was a judgment of basically saying that the city is liable, and then there was many years of what the actual dollar amount of
But
that
was
liability was.
Was it 50 million versus 40 million? Was it 3
You wanna
million
jump in,
versus
Dennis?
2 million?
Yeah, so the judgment that was ultimately entered was for, I think it was $131 million.
So similar. Actually,
Well, there was one
you were
judgment.
able to
There was-
reduce
there was
it
an-
to
there was-
almost half at
yeah,
that point.
exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any more? Mr. Hodge?
James Hodge, 95 East Fulton Street in our great city, from Maple to Nevada, from the bay to the ocean, from the east to west, the north and the south. Thank God for being a lifelong resident here, and thank God for 23 amazing years with the CSEA as an executive member, a shop steward, and also a great worker working in 3 different departments. I always say that when the budget is going on, that we do whatever we can for union workers and those that are not union. I was a non-union worker, hourly for 7 years, about 7 years. And so I say when you're looking to find money or when you're looking to cut, always remember that CSEA is generally the lowest on the salary poll. As I said before, it's not personal to our city manager or you, Mr. Cohen, our city attorney, but our city manager's position. You know, you made some cuts, but let me ask you, is the Haberman lawsuit 9%? Because you said 0% taxes are going up.
In actuality, the Haberman settlement was 10.49%, no, 10.84%, and we cut the budget below that. So
No, I'm
we-
saying, so
we actually cut it below what the cost, the 5.5 million was. We actually reduced expenditures in other areas so that without Haberman, you'd actually would have a negative increase in your budget. It would actually have gone down.
So let me just say this, that, you know, we have 35,000 people here in the city of Long Beach. There is 1.43 million in the county.
One second, Mr. Hodge. If the errata sheet
David, you
passes.
stopping my time?
He is. He's pushing a button. He's holding it.
I'm watching.
I'm not taking your time
All
away.
right, I just want to make sure.
So, not that you ever pay attention to the clock anyway, but the actual.
Thank you, as long as you know.
If this errata sheet passes, that
Yeah.
would be the effect.
Okay, so as I was saying, that the city manager, there's 35,000 people in the city of Long Beach. The city manager's position makes more than the county executive, makes more than the city manager's position makes more than almost every governor in America, if you look at it. And I say when you look at the Corporation Counsel, that position, I know you guys cut that down, but that position was making more than the U.S. Attorney, more than the Attorney General. And I just want to let all of you know that, again, this is Long Beach. We're hurting bad, bad. As homeowners, renters, homeowners are going to charge the renters more because they're not going to take that on their own, and it may be hard. Some renters may have to be forced out. And so many people are being forced out. And so I say to you, as you continue to look for ways that can bring in more revenue, make sure you don't hurt those that either make the least in this city, and also make sure you don't hurt the least among us when you're making your decisions on how to bring more money. And I say that because you have the current MLK Center in eviction court, and you're looking to kick them out of there and looking for ways to bring in maybe more revenue. And they've been here. And if you lived in Long Beach as a lifelonger like I do, you may understand how important that agency has been in the history of this city. So again, thank you all. Let us continue to pray for one each other, and let us continue to pray for our city.
Thank you, James. So I guess one thing I just want to point out quickly, because James has brought this up several times, is where he talks about the salary of our Corporation Counsel and our city manager and compares it to attorney generals and governors. Attorney generals and governors are elected positions. They're on a completely different salary scale than non-elected people. And I'll give you a good case in point. I worked at a nonprofit for 21 years. That was, our annual budget was almost identical in size to the city's budget, and our chief executive made $600,000 a year plus bonuses. So
I'll take it.
So our salaries are not out of alignment with what you need to pay for good talent, because I've said this before, you get what you pay for sometimes. So with that, any more comments? All right, seeing none, next agenda item.
Item 2 is a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to enter into an agreement for the replacement of outdoor condenser water piping and installation at the Magnolia Senior and Child Daycare Center.
Joe?
Good evening, everyone. Joe Fabrizio, Commissioner of Public Works. This is a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to enter into an agreement with Premium Mechanical Services in the amount of $87,325 to replace the outdoor condenser water piping and insulation that serves the Magnolia Senior Center and Child Care Center at 650 Magnolia. The line is an 8-inch diameter supply and return line that's deteriorated and requires replacement. Currently, there's no air conditioning at the facility. The contract has indicated that the work will be completed within 1 month of receipt of a purchase order for this work. Premium Mechanical Services is a reputable contractor that recently successfully completed the air conditioning system at the ice arena. The work's being performed under Suffolk County contract, which is a piggybackable contract, and funding is available in the capital budget for the work. Therefore, I recommend proceeding with the project. Do you have any questions?
Just what you said, it'll be about a month from the time that...
It should be a month from issuance of the purchase order. So after, hopefully we get an award tonight, we're going to issue the PO.
We're not going to need to do temporary AC, are we?
No.
Okay.
Tommy, no, right? Was he here? We will not need temporary AC? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions from the council? All right, seeing none, any questions from the public? Okay, seeing none, on to item 3.
Item 3 is a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to enter into a contract for emergency sanitary sewer replacement on Curly Street between East Pine Street and East Chester Street.
Joe?
On Thursday, May 18, 2023, we received 5 bids in DPW to replace approximately 235 linear feet of 8-inch diameter PVC sewer between 11 and 30 Curly Street. The low bidder was Allen Industries at $234,825. The other 4 bids were extremely competitive. They were Araz Industries at $257,260, Bankert Construction at $281,885, Thomas Develli Contracting at $343,000, and Builtwell General Contracting at $409,900. The sewer main is collapsed, and the city is currently maintaining flow in the system until the proposed contractor replace the main. They intend to start the work next Tuesday. That's our plan right now, and it'll be finished by the end of next week. Allen Industries is a reputable contractor who I've worked with many times and is capable to perform the work. They always have done their work on time and within budget. Funding's available in the capital budget. Therefore, I recommend moving forward with this action. Any questions?
Joe, how
Yes.
many more years?
3 more years.
3
God
more
willing,
years.
to get out of the sewer business. Believe me, it pains me to come here and talk about asking for money to replace sanitary sewers over and over again. Believe me. Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions from the council? All right, seeing none, any questions from the public? Mr. Hodge?
Is this just wanted to make sure, this the replacement of the sewer on Curly Street?
Yeah, there was a sewer collapse on Curly Street. Originally, it was about 35 feet, but when they tried to actually do the repair, it turns out that the pipe was not able to be repaired. It was paper thin, so they actually had to replace, was it 279 feet of it?
235
235
remaining
feet of it?
feet between those 2 manholes that I mentioned, 11.
So right now, the city is actually diverting water around the collapsed portion of it to keep it in
Okay.
flow.
Also, just wanted to ask, is there like a scale of what streets need to be replaced? Is there an order of streets that need to be replaced or upgraded?
There's no order, but we do have our.
It was one, right?
We have a 2005 roadway evaluation plan.
Yes.
It's a guide to what streets we move forward, but they can move depending on, it could be based on complaints, it could be based on a sewer issue or sewer collapse, based on the condition of the water system.
I just wanted to thank you, Joe. I had an opportunity to work with you for many years. You do such a fine job, and I thank you for being diligent in the work. But as you guys look into the streets and you evaluate all of the streets that need to be done, I just think that it could be a political thing, because we did have, it's not you, but we did have a list of streets that needed to go first, and then it disappeared, and it was all based on evaluations. And so that was online. And I would just say that if there's an evaluation done, it should be listed so people can know, unless there's another reevaluation and another street come in, but that list that was up there where people thought they were going to get their streets done, that list is...
Let me tell you, that can't be further from the truth, quite honestly, because we have a detailed list of all those from the roadway evaluation plan, and you will see, if you want to sit down with me, I will show you all the priority streets that were listed in that plan, and I would say 90% of them are done. And we do follow the worst streets that are on that list. We may not do them in order, but we definitely will look at, we'll address them.
But what would make it go out of order, unless there's a situation like this?
When I say out of order, it could be a street, 2 are bad, and we choose the one.
A situation, relax, James. A situation like this
You got to tell me to relax. I asked him the question. Thank you.
I'll answer it.
Okay,
so the situation, I am going to answer it, so give me the opportunity to do that.
All right.
So what actually happened was, when an emergency takes place,
yeah, I understand
like
that.
this,
that
things go out of order.
I understand.
That's exactly what happened.
That's what I'm asking. Thank you. I
Right,
appreciate it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's, yes.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to ask because, again, if the residents are saying that there was a list of and it's not there, again, I'm just being a voice for many voices that I've heard. So again, thank you. Don't worry, you'll continue hearing the voice.
Okay, any more comments from the public? All right, seeing none, on to the
On to the voting. Item 1 is a resolution authorizing the adoption of the budget for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2023, and ending June 30th, 2024, appropriating sums set forth therein and determining and fixing the real estate tax levy. Who introduces and move the adoption of this item as amended?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
I was really thinking about this whole process. It's been pretty intense, and we got a lot of work done. We all take it very seriously. We're talking about people's lives. So I was trying to figure out what to say today that would be different. But I listened to a podcast from Laura Curran today, and she put governance and politics into two groups. There's politics as performance art, and then there's government actually doing the job. And I'm proud to be with this council and administration and this staff to say we're the latter. We're actually doing the job and getting it done. I vote yes.
Vice President Treston.
Once again, I'd like to thank everybody in this room for all of their work, and I vote yes.
President Bendo.
Well, I think I said what I had to say during the presentation. Again, this was quite the marathon to get this done and to get this result, but yes.
Item 2 is a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to enter into an agreement for the replacement of outdoor condenser water piping and installation at the Magnolia Senior and Child Daycare Center. Introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
And finally, item 3 is a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to enter into a contract for emergency sanitary sewer replacement on Curley Street between East Pine Street and East Chester Street. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
We'll make a motion to close the meeting.
Do we have to do that
I will.
special thing?
Second.
Second? Okay. Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Have an excellent Memorial Day. Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Okay, we're
Okay,
adjourned.
everyone, please have a very safe, healthy, and happy Memorial Day weekend. Enjoy yourselves, be safe, and we'll see you at the first meeting in June.
All right. What is it? Oh, it's not even